So there have been more dots connecting about portals that has just come through. And first of all, I want to show you, just so if you're interested, the books about Alf Jasinski, who went into inner earth. And this is not honeycomb earth, this is really inner earth. Here, from here in Germany, the way that he went in was also they opened portals for him. And then he could just, you know, he could just go into his local forest. They told him exactly where to go when. And they actually could hack into our, you know, they could actually call him on the phone. So interestingly, even though our technology doesn't work there, because they are in the fifth dimension, their technology, or they had a way to hack themselves into the our technology, and they could call him and tell him on the phone, okay, go to that place exactly at that time, and then they would open up a portal. And I just want to show you the name of his wife. You know, he passed on, but she's the one who is publishing his diaries, just in case you're interested, you know, in the books. That's Krista. Can you see Krista Jasinski? Oh, it's okay, it's the wrong way, so it's Krista Jasinski. Yeah, anyways, so so they were able to open portals with their technology, which is also their technology is not the same as the military technology to open portals. Then I'm gonna also mention now two other things that came, and that is, one is that it was shown to me a long time ago. I had a completely lucid dream. So this was like, when I woke up from this, I knew that was me, that just happened, or I don't know, but that really happened, that was real, you know, that was totally real. And it was I was a water fae, you know, so not a mermaid, because I wasn't in the ocean. I was in, and I just knew that it was a Scottish lake, you know, and one of those lakes that goes so deep, because this is also the thing, you know, with inner earth, is that the oceans, there are places in the oceans and also in lakes where the water goes all the way through to the other side. And because inside, the gravity is not at the core, because at the core is the opening of the at the core of our planet is the infinity portal, is a sun, which, and every sun is a portal within itself. You know, every torus at its core, which is every life form at its core, has this opening into the infinite, into the light, into the highest realms. Yeah, into the highest dimension where there's pure light. Yeah, that is the pure consciousness. And a sun is a life form where that inner torus becomes the outer also expression, where it's like pure light. It's sending pure light. So there is no zero distortion. It's like completely awake. Yeah. Completely embodied. Yeah, so that is at the core of our planet, just like we have at our core, which is the first cell that is created. The first cell is a heart cell, so that is the core of where every other cell that makes up this body came out of. And there's also the soul seed or something, the seed, the God spark, you know, it lives in that. It's like it comes through that portal. And so that's in the middle, and that's not what causes the gravity. The gravity is inside the mantle, the earth mantle, and honeycomb earth is also inside the earth mantle. And so we're like feet to feet, you know, with the inner earthians. And there are these lakes and ocean where there is no floor. It just goes down to the other side. And what happens is, and there are actually divers that have, I mean, I don't understand that they could have never dived so deep, but still there is this phenomenon where you go to a certain depth, and before, you know, the upside was here, and then it all turns around when you go through you go through this magnetic field, and it all turns around, and that makes total sense, you know, because we're feet to feet on the earth mantle, and that is the hollow earth, that is the inner earth. So that's where he went. And yes, my dream where I was the water fae, I just knew, you know, I mean, when I was in that body, that was who I was. And so I could only, after waking up, whatever I could rescue over from that, you know, from when I was in that body, that is taking memory through death. And I just knew, okay, it was a Scottish lake, and I could only see my tail, and my tail was, you know, I've never seen anything like it, not even depicted in movies. So it was very specific, it was very beautiful. And I was wanting, now we're going back to the portals and the interdimensions, and we're going back to the nature spirit realms, we're going back to holding the balance between the realms, and holding the connection between them. That's what it used to be, you know, and that is what has been eradicated within our system now, you know, from Earth. But of course, there are still pockets where this happens, and it all has to do with our own DNA, with our own consciousness, how awake we are. But the DNA is how we can embody that understanding and that inner standing and that knowing, how much we can embody it, and that is how much we can actually perceive it, and then also have the conscious connection there. So I was float. So in this experience, because it wasn't in that sense a dream, it was real. Me as this water fae, and in that dream, okay, that I had, or experience that I had, I was in two bodies. I was going back and forth between two bodies, and I was also myself was in a human form on a boat that was on that lake, and I was there because I wanted to meet myself. There was another part of me that was this water fae, and so I was on the boat on the lake looking into the water. And for a moment when I was the water fae, I actually swam to the surface, and I don't remember if I stuck my head out or not, but it was like I was right there under the water surface looking up, and for one moment I saw myself in the boat, and for one moment standing on the boat I saw myself as the water fae. But then in that moment what happened was that the water police came after me. So water police. So again, it's like the black helicopters closing that are always there when these portals open, when, you know, to shut it down, you know, shut the system down. It is the same how the principles not principles, but how the structure is set up to shut down soul, you know, and also, you know, what is being broadcast to us through the media. Also, it's all to distract us from going within, and to keep us locked into a certain mindset. And so I knew as my, you know, even before myself on the boat didn't know that the water police were after it, didn't detect that, but myself as the water fae, I could sense it immediately. And so I dove quickly, and there was this sense of you know, a little bit of anxiety, not much, just a little bit, but like, oh, I got to get out of here real quick. And so not only did I swim back down, but I also, what happened was I needed to, and it just naturally happened again through my consciousness, because it was what I needed, wanted, what I did, what I did naturally, you know, like, do we think about breathing, you know? And so I opened the portal and went through into my own dimension, and I could literally see how I closed it behind me, and you know, and I was safe, and I felt so good. I was like, and the light that, like, that lake was vast. I could feel how huge it was, and it was completely dark. I didn't see anything. I just felt like this vast darkness around me, but I was glowing. So light was coming from me. So there was like a light stream or bubble, or, you know, there was light around me. But interesting was that this vast darkness of water, of deep water, it felt so good. It felt so safe. It felt like it was holding me in it was home, and it felt really beautiful. So there was nothing, like, for my physical self, it would have been like cold and dark, and, you know, but for my water face self, it was home, and it felt beautiful, and it was not cold at all, you know. I didn't even feel the water. It was just a warm, like, it was like a thicker air, a warm, thicker air, I would say. And this is the thing. This is the thing, is that if I, as the water fae, were to have succumbed in my mind to the fear, that the fear would have taken me over, that I would have been in because what fear does is it freezes us, yeah. And it's just the same when in our dreams, is that the fear disenables us to do what we want to do. It also freezes us, and we can't float, we can't fly, you know, we can't run. Sometimes I can't even walk. Sometimes it's so bad that I can't even put one foot, you know, I'm completely frozen like that. And that is when the mind is captured. That it's only happening in the mind, and then it becomes a reality. But as soon as I'm aware, this is the thing, because the light has the power, the dark has the force, but it has no power. So when we remember who we are, we remember our power, we remember our true self, which is the soul. That is the soul. That's who we are. We are not it's not that we are not the body. The body is an expression of the soul mind, DNA, which is the ancestral DNA complex, and of course then also the DNA that comes from the soul, that is the spiritual DNA that is woven into and then marries the ancestral DNA that you take on when you incarnate. And the body is a complete expression of that whole symphony, all of that code, all of those beliefs. Yes. And every belief, every paradigm, you know, it all is a frequency. But the knowing is that if you forget who you are, and if you then succumb and you feel powerless, you feel like so much fear that they can get you, and then they can. Then we lose the power to open the portals, because once we open, they can't. It's like, even though the military has the ability to open portals, the dark, like, I'm just going to call it dark, or the inverted, force, the inverted forces, let's just call it like that. On the military side, they have the ability to open portals. They do not have the ability to follow us into the realms that we open. That they do not have the ability. Now, So this always shows that all the power lies within us, and it's all about awakening in the mind, realizing the truth about who we are in our minds. Because if we only when we realize the truth about who we are, that is not just synchronistic, but that translates as then we realize the truth about our world, how things really work, how things really are. And that's the real science, you know? Okay. And then I also wrote down, oh my God, I'm getting dizzy. Yeah. So, presence is here. Multidimensional presence is here. That's when we get this dizziness. The other thing is with the Sasquatch also, you know, these are have many names in many cultures, and these are also magical beings. Okay, and we're also going to talk about, we're going to come to that. We're going to talk about the golden child and the creativity and the golden child and the Christ consciousness and all of this, how that all works together. The magical child, yes. So when I was a child, okay, so the Sasquatch, they are also part of that. You could say they're part of the nature spirit world. They're also these magical creatures, beings. Creatures is not a, but they're, see, creatures I call more that are animal. For me, it's not a, creatures is not a negative term at all, but we are also, you could say we are also creatures in that sense, but it doesn't work so well because it's more, they are definitely not animals. They are humanoids. They have, so that means they're in the noosphere, you know, they're in the mindset, they're in that also the blueprint is not an animal blueprint, it's a humanoid blueprint, which is a different mind, body, soul complex. Different template through which consciousness comes through, yes. They also walk through portals. They also are dimensional walkers. And when I was a child, this is again something, now it ties into the magical child. When we are children, if we still, you know, if we haven't been, you know, this is how our, you know, how we come to earth, we are still the magical child. What does that mean? It means that either we can actually still see or perceive in some way. I was never able to see with my eyes. I was never able to see. My third eye was shut down. And I can only say that probably it was for my best, because I was so haunted as a child that if I would have seen the creatures that were haunting me, that would have really freaked me out, and I was already in terror every night, and it gave me PTSD. Okay, so when children are allowed, oh, okay, now it comes in again, beautiful. When children are allowed to play, and when they are not, you know, when they still have this space to be themselves and not are not yet not yet subjected to the indoctrination into the inverted dream, yeah? So into that mindset of the inverted dream. And that also comes with language, yes? And this is the indoctrination of the mind into the inverted matrix, also into, okay, I am identified as this, and this is subject to this world, and this is how the world is, and it puts you out of your power. It shows you, you know, how should I say? Well, it creates that split between you and your soul, that sense of separation. It's not a real split, but the sense is there, and so it becomes your experience. exactly. So I was playing in a beautiful place in the mountains by a creek, all by myself. And I always, as a child, and this is also what the magical child is, and this is what is coming back, and this is also why I'm making this video, why it's so important to pay attention, give focus to your dreams, and pay attention to that inner voice that comes through. That, you know, in the beginning there may be nothing. You may think that you didn't dream anything, or that there is no inner voice. That means that you have to listen and pay attention to that nothingness that is there, yeah, until something comes. But you have to, you begin somewhere. You begin by acknowledging the value of your soul, acknowledging your soul, even when, you know, the pathways have been so shut down, so taken, and like layers and layers and layers of indoctrination and inverted code, yeah. You have to like know it's there, your soul is there, it's communicating with you all the time, even when you're not perceiving it. So, you know, to sit with your open senses and just take some time, and of course best within a fractal environment, and so that is nature. Hold space for it even when nothing comes, and then it will begin to open up. That's the message. Yeah, so I was playing by this creek, and I was always, and you know, at some point then it went away. I was always in an imaginary world, always within my imagination. There was always a story going on that I was a part of, and it was, you know, I couldn't wait to actually be let go of, you know, of being tied into the physical world and all of those stories. I was always excited to have my space and my time alone. I was always alone. And the thing is that if there were other children, I could never go there with them, you know, because they were already so kind of didn't have access to that anymore. So they took me out as well. So it was only when I had alone time, and most of the time, even when it was in nature, it was specifically strong. And I always loved to go to my grandma and grandpa's cabin. This was because it was so much nature, and because, you know, so now the adults were up there entertaining each other, and I had free time to just go and play, you know, by myself in by the creek, which was close to the house, so they weren't worried about me. And I was there playing, and all of a sudden I look up, and I just know there's a presence. I can't see. What I see is a shimmer. I see just like you know how Fata Morgana, you know how there is hot air and cold air, and there's sometimes you see this shimmer. That's what I saw, but it wasn't about seeing. You see, that was the thing. I wasn't so fixated on the seeing. I was totally in my own world of imagination, and I couldn't see any of what I imagined, but it was still, I was in that world. I was experiencing it. I was enjoying it. It was fun. I was in that story. You know, a lot of the time, the story that I had was my grandpa had a barbecue, and it was in the times that it wasn't summer. He wasn't using it, and there were leaves in it. You know, and I was allowed to play with that, and I would go and collect just certain different things, you know, certain leaves, certain acorns, or whatever it was, in the forest around, and I would put them in the barbecue, and in my mind I was preparing potions to heal animals. You know, that was the story, and I was totally immersed in that story. And you know, I would pour water into it, or there was maybe already rainwater into it, and I was stirring and stirring and making this potion, and that would all, and every time we went there, I couldn't wait to get back into that world where I could play this, you know. And so I look up, and there's a presence there. I couldn't see or hear anything, but I knew. And I looked, and I smiled, and my heart opened up. And I just felt this loving presence beholding me. And I heard, you know, I love you or something like that. I don't know. I didn't hear it like, but I remember saying, I love you too. And I don't know how long I stood there. And I don't remember what happened after that. And it wasn't anything that, you know, today something like that would just like knock me down. Like it would just like, whoa, you know, like blow me out of like my mind. Yeah, it would really blow my mind. And I would get really, really, really still, and I would hold space for it and all of this. But there it was just like, it was like a natural thing. It was a beautiful natural thing, like as if an animal would show up and I would behold it and hold space for it, and there would be like a looking into each other's eyes. I see you, brother. You know, like that. And that actually happened to me too with a fox later in life, but I'm not going to go there. But what I realized, you know, the dots came together later in life, and that was, because at that point I had never heard of Sasquatch, but I did, and this is all going to tie together. This is all because we're coming to the cetaceans also. So how we have aspects of ourselves that can also be, they don't have to be, you know, soul aspects of ourselves can also be in, they don't have to be all human, you know. As I said, that like with the water fae, that was a soul aspect of myself, clearly, that is this water fae. And so at somewhere in my soul tree, I'm part of a soul that has that one aspect going down into density is me, and another aspect going into a different realm, into more density, is this water fae. And similarly, because what it needs is the same kind of mind, yeah. So capacity for consciousness, to be conscious of itself, and that can happen in different kinds of bodies. And in different kinds of realms also. And so also I had a dream, completely lucid, where I was cetacean, and I think I was whale, but I also was dolphin. So it was like both. I was going, you know, I was in the body, I was in a whale, I was myself, and I was also a dolphin. And we're having the experiences, and in that dream, which was lucid, which was also really happening, I got so much about cetaceans and the whales especially, and they also open portals. They all are also dimensional travelers. And when I was at the end of when I finished my master's degree at university, which did also, like, it was like the final, you know, it really did its a number on me in also, you know, indoctrinating or holding my light down, because it was really a time of there was no joy in that, you know. I only did that, I only studied that and put myself through this torture, I have to say, of 5 years of my youth spent really in the dungeons, making copies and reading an incredible amount of books. You know, I had stacks of books that I needed to read for all these years. And every single one of these books was like, I would never have wanted to read them. It was like having to put yourself through learning stuff that you have no connection to, that is dead, you know, and that means nothing to you. And I thought I was still so indoctrinated. I thought I had to put myself through this so that I could have the certificate, and so that then I could become, you know, I could make a living doing something that I felt like I wanted to do. But I also was still thinking within this little box of, well, I only have these choices. And so that was being a journalist, or later making documentary films, which is also, you know, it all has to do with, in the sense, journalism has to do with communication. And I wanted to because I was already seeing, how already the system, oh, low battery. Okay, but I still have 20%. I'm gonna go real quick. So I wanted to communicate the dots that I was putting together in order to bring light into awareness, you know, create opening in awareness. And I thought that in order to become a journalist, I needed to go through that. Anyways, at the end of that, I was so, you know, I wanted to reward myself to go and swim with the dolphins. So I had saved up, working next to my studies so hard, saving up every dime so that I could afford myself to go into the waters and into the ocean, wild, and swim with wild dolphins if they would swim with me. So and already as a child there was always this affinity with whales. So in this lucid dream, I was a whale, and I was also a dolphin, and I was shown that they are interdimensional, and that, you know, they were in this pool, even though it was a pool for whales and dolphins, and it was way too small. But at the same time, they were also, even though their bodies were hovering maybe in the pool, they were also in the open ocean at the same time. I don't know. There's no, you can't put it into words. It's really, but I was getting the whole feeling of it, and I was getting how that whales, they were all singing together in a pod, even though usually the whales are loners, yeah. But it's like they were all singing together because they were these interdimensional beings, so they could be in different places at the same time. And it was like the really ecstasy, you know, these vibrations of them making the tones, whoa, 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 all the sound that was coming through that they could make, and being enveloped in that sound symphony of the whole, you know, whale. Oh my God, it makes me, wow. It is a healing, ecstatic feeling, you know. And that is, you know, one of the important, that is what they also bring to Earth, is these frequencies. It's not something that you can really put into words, but you can experience and you can know. And so again, there comes the inverted forces military, is this low, you know, I learned also about this. It's always like from both sides, and I learned about this low frequency sonar and what it does to the whales. And that's of course because, again, it's part of shutting that down when those magical, again, you know, the higher dimensional frequencies were coming through. They had this system in place to suppress that, you know, and to shut it down. And then I got just now, yesterday or the day before, I got that there are also galactic ships in the oceans, and they because with the galactic ships it's the same thing, you know, like I said in the previous video, that you know, then the helicopters come when they open up portals. So every time they show themselves in the 3D or in our material world, then you know, they're not allowed to. And also there's this, you know, not coming by force. You can't force happiness on someone. You know, they will never intervene, right? They will never intervene. But what they can do and what they will do is also work within what they're allowed to. And what I was shown is that they hold space. They create through their ships in the water. They create safe haven bubbles for the cetaceans, and that was really beautiful to see that. And it was also shown that if they hadn't done that to protect the cetaceans, you know, then there might already not be any left, because the cetaceans especially, I mean dolphins as well, but they have a different frequency code, and the whales, they're huge. I mean, they're not just in their physical expression huge, they also make like the huge field that they grid, that sound grid, where this healing, ecstatic dream song lines. Okay, this is so much coming together that I'm not going to be able to put all into this video. Has to do with holding a certain geometry, a certain frequency that is kept active in the DNA, and this is like a field on Earth where these frequencies are hosted, and yes, so that the light ships, they created a safe bubble space for the cetaceans that they could do, yeah, that they were able to do. And we are talking about interdimensional beings and portals. So the Sasquatch, the nature spirits like the water fae, and the cetaceans also. The cetaceans are these, they still have, you know, at least in my dream, maybe there are some that have lost that capacity, I don't know, but that is their nature, is that they are interdimensional. Yes, okay. And there are other beings that are smaller beings, and what I'm getting is these are also the magical in the animal kingdom. They have a very high, and they need a very high, a very fractalized environment. So still an ecosystem that has a certain high, able to hold a certain high frequency, and they also open portals and can are physically within within different dimensions. Also certain butterflies and hummingbirds I'm getting, you know, and that is what you see when you see the dream catchers, and you see and also dragonflies. So that is why you see on the dream catchers, you often see dragonflies, you see butterflies, and also hummingbirds, and they are called the they have a certain name, like the keeper of portals. And I'm not, because I'm like pressured now because there's low battery, I'm not getting it right. So yes, and now we come to the creativity, the golden child. I think I'm gonna have to make another short, just a short. Oh, we'll see if we can fit it in here. We'll just go until the battery is dead. because that all fits together. And as you can see, what am I wearing around my neck? This is my pa made this, and it's so he made this with his own hands, and it's a dolphin with a golden child, and he gave this to me. So what has come through in the one of my previous videos that I uploaded, you can see this, is that now is the time of giving birth to ourselves, and that is our inner child, that is the creativity, that is the magical child. And you know that how we were this living in a world of imagination, we're also meeting interdimensionally, was, you know, it's like, today it's like, oh, this is all made up. It's all just in the mind, so it's not real. So it has no value. All of that was part of the indoctrination, and wasn't there when we were children. Okay, I'm not going to go into that, but it was because as children, this DNA was still active, was still open, and then it was shut down through the indoctrination of the societal structures and school structures and all of this. It was like squished out of us, and it just goes into the background where we still had so much access to our soul. And it is the soul creativity, the golden child, the giving birth to ourselves, that is giving birth to our soul. That is when the intuition and the creativity, that is, you know, when play comes back. You know, when Jesus said we become like children again, that is what he meant by that. It is this magical child that was you know, cloaked. It was suppressed. All this information, which is code, that defractalized that so that it couldn't come through anymore. Yeah. This now is becoming so strong. That magical child that is still a part of us, that it's coming through again. It's finding its way through again, and that is the honoring of our soul. That is the honoring of our dreams. That is the paying attention to the intuition, and that is also the making space to be a child again and to see what kind of creativity wants to come through. It doesn't matter what it is, and it will not make sense to the mind. The mind will like fight it. Okay, I need to go. I need to make another video on this, because I can see how it's a beautiful field that is even opening up further. That the mind, how the mind, and that is of course the conditioned mind, how it is fighting it tooth and nail, because that is also taking our power back from the conditioned mind. And then our reality, because this is also reactivating that shut down DNA within us that holds and beholds and has access to these other realms. Yes, that which we call magic, these lighter realms, and so then it bleeds through into, we see it in and then things become magical, and our life becomes, you know, we live in this creative way, and our will becomes free, and we become lucid dreamers, and we become the creators of our reality. Or actually, we realize ourselves that we were always the creator of our reality, but if, you know, depending on your mindset, if you cannot see that and you're locked into a certain mindset, then, as I said before, we don't consciously create. We just then it is our indoctrination, our conditioning, that is just being broadcast and just flow. You know, that's how the how we are controlled and how we are manipulated into heterometry. Oh, it's like not our own will, it's free will, but it is like a will that is coming from the outside. That is that mind control, you know, that is manipulating us to live in a certain box, so that we make ourselves and keep ourselves available as hosts, you know, to where our energy can be siphoned off into that inverted system. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Or, I mean, it always feels like there's more. But I don't want to make it too long either.